What's going on, people? Welcome to the most genuine food vlogging gaming channel on YouTube. I say that because I can back it up. And this is definitely one of those videos where you're going to understand why I say such things. I'm not a person to gloat. Channel still connecting, but I am a man of opinion. Let me close this. I think it's going to help with the OBS. My laptop ain't so good. So first and foremost, I want to plug into you guys. Make sure you guys are subscribed to A-DS Play 101 on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to ADS Play 101 on Twitter, Facebook, more importantly, Twitch. I'm on the road to 75 followers on Twitch, so you guys keep your eyes out for that. And go ahead and support your boy. I do have new extensions that allow you to what's up, Luffy Gear? What's going on, Luffy Gear 4? Boundoman, yeah, I know. I'm also on the road to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, so you guys keep them subs coming in. Keep watching the content and things like this. There's a lot of videos like this, but this is a Let's Discuss. And you know my Let's Discuss is I don't bite my tongue. You know, understand one thing about me, and anybody who's gotten to know me over the years through YouTube. I've been doing this since 2006. For the people that gotten to know me over the years on YouTube, you'll understand that I'm a man of principle. And being a man of principle means that you're not always going to do things that are considered popular because you see something wrong with it and you just refuse to be a part of that demographic, a part of that group. You know what I mean? So when it comes to having an opinion about a game, and me being the person who I am, I've always looked at fighting games and just video games in general differently. Cause growing up, you know, like I said, I've been playing video games since I was 3. You know, that's, you know, well over 25 to like 26 years of nonstop me playing video games. And I've seen a lot of BS come and go, and there was a lot of things that I wish I didn't spend my money on. And we're gonna actually talk about one of those games that has a lot of hype around it for, I feel, one, all the wrong reasons, two, because people are just so used to things like this happening that they just decide to go, oh, well, I gotta, you know, spend money on it just because, you know, there's some other games I want to play again, and, you know, it's a re-release of that. And 3, I understand that it's a business move. It's a cheap cash in, it's a business move, and it's because of things like this that the FGC or esports or whatever you want to call it is lacking the respect that it should be getting. You know, so like I said, strap in, go get you some popcorn, go get you a drink, go get you like a cola, go get your Pop-Tarts, go get you a slice of pizza, because this is going to be one of them videos, man. This is going to be one of those videos, and I know I'm going to have to deal with some controversy later on that, of course, I'm going to ignore it, but I understand that the negativity is coming, because you have people in this world that like to pretend to be something that they're not. Mind you, I'm a 90s baby, you know, like I'm 28 years old now, like I'm 28 years old now. I've been playing video games since I was 3. I grew up in the arcades. You know, I grew up during the time where being the man at the arcade was more important, or being the guy at the arcade was more important than food at one point. It was, because that's how you got your respect back then during playing video games. You know, it wasn't, you know, because it had so many people around. When you was that guy, when everybody looked at you as that guy, it was almost like learning a special move that nobody else knew. You know, everybody looked at you as like this guy, you know, like you, that's how you earned your respect back then. And to a lot of us that grew up at that time, we understand the importance of that. We understand why that's something to hold near and dear, you know, because that was during the time where we're not really getting, unless you're in Japan, you're not really getting that time back. Because arcades in America, they don't really, I'm not going to say that they don't have a chance to come back. It's like the focus isn't on that. The gaming companies isn't focusing on doing things for the sake of the culture that was built around these video games and maintaining that. They're more so focused on making money, which at the core, every business is focused on making money. But at the same time, it's like they don't acknowledge the hardcore fan bases that went around it, that, you know, gave their lives to perfecting their skills in the games that they created. And instead they make garbage or make cheap cash-ins and put like the games that everybody want, mix it in with a bunch of BS, and then try to release it. And the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Edition is one of those situations. You know, now, like I said, I grew up playing video games since I was 3. I think that's like the 3rd time I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna try not to say it again. And I've seen a lot of BS. And one of my favorite genres of video games are fighting games. And growing up, you know, it was always like this, like, I understand business. Not that I've been in business, but I understand the way they market their games and the way companies promote their games. You always know if you're gonna get sold some bullshit or if you're getting sold a solid product, you know. And one of the things that fighting games used to do back in the day was that when they had something to brag about, they used to always put it on the back of the case, like the video game cases that you get today. They will always brag about certain things, like how many characters were in the roster, how many, you know, fighting game, how many modes were in the game, how many stages they had in the game, you know, like what kind of music they had in the game. You know, it was certain things they used to always brag about that other fighting games didn't. And when a fighting game didn't tell you about those things, especially the amount of characters that was in the roster, you knew you was getting sold some bullshit and that the game wasn't going to be good. And I guarantee you 100% of the time, anytime I seen that, I avoided buying the game, and then I heard about it later on, and I was glad I didn't spend my money on it. This is going to be one of those situations. Now, the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Edition, you guys see the, you know, like the slideshow right here. It's an anniversary edition that's coming out in May. I don't think they gave a solid day in May. I think it's like May 1st, maybe, that it's coming out. And it's going to feature, let's see, around a good 12 games across the Street Fighter history. You know, it's an anniversary collection, so they're taking you through the journey of how far Street Fighter has come. And when you look at it, you know, understanding what it is, and there's other things coming with it as well. They have a mode where you can look at the various like the various character sprites. You can look at the character sprites like frame by frame. You can look at the moves and how they were made. You can look at the character moves frame by frame, and it's a very technical mode that I can see being very beneficial to a certain community, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit. But other than that, man, I just don't see this 30th anniversary edition worth buying, in my opinion. You know, this is one of those things where I feel like they mix in what you want with a bunch of shit that you don't want, and they're trying to sell it to you for a price that they feel like is reasonable because you're getting all these games, you know, across the history of Street Fighter. It's worth something, you know, it's worth something. Now, granted, you know, it's one of the cheaper games, especially these days when fighting games, well, when video games in particular are going like $60 to sometimes even $70. And there's even versions of like Dragon Ball Fighters that, you know, is like $100. Like, it's crazy the price of video games these days, especially the ones on console. I know the ones that are on like the ones that are normally on PC, they normally maintain their price range of like a good I would say like a good like $40, and then like they have been reasonably priced, you know, over, you know, a good span of many decades. So fighting the games that are on console that are also on the PC, the PC versions are always going to be cheaper, but you know, arguably they're going to have like better graphics and they're going to be like much better overall. But nevertheless, the price of this is actually going to be well, actually I've seen like a couple prices, but I think that they're going to price this at like a good $40, because that's like the most common number that I'm seeing across like various websites. So for like $40 you're getting 12 games over the course of Street Fighter history. Now, here's the thing, though, right? We know for a fact that most of these games are not going to be played. Matter of fact, I can only see like 4 out of these 12 that are actually worth even bothering with. In all honesty, like, there's only certain people that are going to buy these games. One, hold on one second. Yeah, you have like a certain you have certain demographics that are going to buy this. And like I said, the company isn't if the company was focused on you know, their fan base, they would only put like 4 games in this. Because in all honesty, only 4 of these things are even worth bothering with playing. You put 12 games in this, which when it comes right down to it, some of these games are just a waste of space. You know what I mean? And that's how I kind of feel about fighting games when they do like rehashes and clones of the same character. It's just taking up space, and it reduces the effort. That it reduces putting in any real effort towards creating characters that are different to give the people more of a variety. Instead, you just put a bunch of garbage in there mixed with a couple gems, and then you're trying to call it a collection. That's just bullshit to me. You know what I mean? It is. Like, when you look at the list of games that they have in here, okay, so you're giving us, you know, the first Street Fighter game. Okay, bet. That's actually something worth playing, you know, because a lot of people didn't play the first Street Fighter. I know a lot of people that play Street Fighter, including myself. We started off playing during, you know, saying like Street Fighter 2. That was the one that we got started with. Then you look at 5 different versions of Street Fighter 2. Like 5 different versions. Like, why the fuck do we have 5 versions of Street Fighter 2? You know, listen, back then, you know, you got to understand, especially to like the younger generation who playing video games now, who grew up during like this, you know, this during the era when like technology was already taking over, and when technology was already advanced enough to where you can get like an online downloadable patch for a game if the game was messed up and things like that. You have to understand that back then, that if they wanted to do like a balance change or anything of that nature, they had to release a whole new copy of the game with the balance changes in it. And Street Fighter 2 easily was the most rehashed, rebalanced, you know, game in fighting game history. I don't think there was any other fighting game, even to this day, that had as many versions as they had for Street Fighter 2. I mean, you had Street Fighter 2. I mean, this is just 5 of them. There was many games in between that they not even gonna put in here. But for the ones that they selected, you know, you got the first Street Fighter. Like, I don't know what chronological order. Like, I haven't looked it up recently, and it's been so long ago since these games were released. I can't remember it by heart. But I know it was more versions of Street Fighter 2 than they have in here. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good bit. Like, they rehashed the hell out of that game. And in between the consoles, from the Super Nintendo to the Sega Genesis, I mean, dude, like they kept rehashing Street Fighter 2. But all in all, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo was the best version of Street Fighter 2 that they ever made, because that was the one that was mostly played at tournaments. It was the most balanced version out of all of them. And with that being said, when you give us the best version of a game series, why would you give us the trash versions in between? Like, anybody who knows anything about Street Fighter, we know that, you know, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is the best one out of all those 5. You know, and even giving them some leeway. Let's say that they put the first Street Fighter 2 in there. Okay, cool. But with Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, like you get everything that the previous Street Fighter games had, as far as like the roster size and the stages and everything else, that it just doesn't make any sense to put the other 4 versions of Street Fighter 2 in there. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. Even when you go to Street Fighter Alpha 3, you know, look at the 3 games. Like those 3 games, I think they are Street Fighter Alpha 3. I don't think that those are even the best versions of Street Fighter Alpha. I think they had another one. I think it was another one. I want to say that it was Street Fighter Alpha Upper. I believe that was the version that was like the best version of Street Fighter Alpha. And they didn't even give us that one. I want to say that when it came to America, like they renamed it. Maybe that one was Street Fighter Alpha 3. I'm not sure. Because I played a lot of Japanese imports when I was younger. So I know when that came over here, I know we got a version of that game. But I think they called it something else. I want it was like Street Fighter Max or like Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max or something like that. I don't know. But I know we did get it, and I know these 3 versions of Street Fighter Alpha isn't even considered amongst, you know, many people who play fighting games, including myself. These 3 versions aren't even the best versions of Street Fighter Alpha. So all 3 of those are garbage there. But given leeway again, let's say that Street Fighter Alpha 3 was the best version, you know, out of the entire series. You know, okay, cool. Why not just give us that one? Because the other 2 are even, you know, they're garbage. Like, it's not even worth buying, you know, those 2. You know what I mean? And then you have Street Fighter 3. Now, this is the one that, you know, when it comes to Street Fighter 3, Third Strike is the best one out of all of them. You know, because the previous 2 were so imbalanced. There was some characters were so overpowered that they even that in many cases, like, the game wasn't even worth playing. You know what I mean? Again, back then, the only way to rebalance a game was that you had to like release it into like a whole new you have to do like a whole new release. You know what I mean? And Capcom is known to do this more so than any other fighting game company, than any other video game company that's out there. You know what I mean? They re-release the same game with rebalances and patches. I mean, they're known for doing this. They've been doing this since the 90s, and they still doing it to this day. It's just rehashes of the same game with some tweaks that they should have had in the first version. But, and to be honest, in my little conspiracy mind, I think they purposely release bad versions of a game just so they can keep the hype around the game, you know what I mean, and keep the attention around the game with like little tweaks here and there. Like, that's what I think. Like, I think they purposely release messed up and fucked up versions of the game just so that they can release a patch later and they can keep the momentum and the attention around the game and tension. Like like they do some shady stuff, some shady shit, and then they try to act like, oh, we didn't know we did this, so let me do this patch. You know, by the way, keep your attention on our game. You know, so Street Fighter 3 Fight for the Future, Third Strike, Fight for the Future, that was the best version of Street Fighter 3 because the other 2 were trash. They were trash, like, hands down. You know, and when you look at this, it's like they mixed in bullshit with the, you know, with the gems just to make you buy some things that you don't want mixed in with the things that you actually do want. So because I see things like that, like I understand that it's only $40, but even looking at it, you know, you paying $40 for like 4 games. I'm like, let's just take all the garbage out out the system, right? Like, let's just take all the garbage out of the way. Like, let's just remove the garbage, right? You would be paying like $10 per each game in the event that, you know, the other versions of the games weren't even out there. Just looking at Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter Alpha 3, and then you have Third Strike Fight for the Future, right? Looking at each of those, you would be paying $10 for each of those. Why would you be giving me all this other crap in between? Like, I don't know. Like, me, I just don't. It's like certain things that just don't make any sense to me, you know, when it comes to this. And again, I'm a man of principle, so I won't be buying this. Like, why would you be giving me a bunch of trash to, you know what I mean? I don't know, like, it just don't make sense to me, bro. It just really don't. But despite me feeling this way, I'm not trying to discourage nobody else from buying it. It's more so talking to the people in my, well, I'm not going to say I won't buy it. I'm going to say that I'm reluctant to buy it. I'm hesitant because I understand what's going on here. And it's just like, you know, why are you giving me a bunch of bullshit when I don't, you know nobody else. Okay, it's flash yellow, flash green. I don't know what that's about. I had a red green flash just there. I don't know what that's about. No, I guess everything's fine. So it went back to green. But yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense that, you know, really makes it not worth buying. You know, in many cases, especially if you're looking at it this in the way that I'm looking at it. So with that being said, man, like, despite me feeling this way, there's going to be certain people, certain demographics that are going to buy this game. One is like the fighting game community. Like the fighting game community, they looking at this as like everybody else looking at this as just like another game to buy. They're looking at this as something that they can make money off of. They can host tournaments with. They can, you know, they can add more games to the FGC with this. You know, they can do some, like some retro tournaments with it. They can do some nostalgic tournaments with it. You know, imagine them doing like a fighting game tournament with the original Street Fighter. You know what I mean? That's going to be a lot of hype. So it's a business move for them to buy games like this. So, and then you got all the, you know, the people who will be participating in these fighting game tournaments. They're most definitely going to be playing it. You know, I mean, who wouldn't want to see, you know, who wouldn't want to see guys like Daigo, guys like Justin Wong, etc., play these games again? Like, I can already see them, you know, calling Alex Valle for another session of, you know, video games like Street Fighter Alpha 3, because him and Daigo kind of made a name for themselves off of being in the finals, in the grand finals of that game. So like, it's a business move for a lot of people to buy this. I understand that. So that's the first group of people that's gonna, you know, that's pretty much gonna buy this. The second group of people that you have are the people who create like the Mugen engines and like the Mugen fighting games. Like I said, there's a mode in this game, and I wish I would have got a picture of it. There's a mode in this game that allows you to, you know, look at each of the characters' moves, their stances, and just overall like the entirety of the characters themselves in a sprite by sprite format. And that's going to work wonders for the people that gets it on the PC. You know what I mean? They can copy the characters sprite by sprite. It's going to make making characters easier for them. You know what I mean? Without them having to use like a ROM, they can get it from like the game itself. You know what I mean? Like a pure copy of the game itself. And it's just going to make creating, you know what I'm saying, like versions of these characters in like the Mugen engines and like those type of free engines like that. So they're gonna love games like this because it gives them an opportunity to create characters that they never thought they'll be able to create in an easier way. So that's, again, it's a business move for them as well. Well, not necessarily business because they're not really making money on it, but it's something that they want to do as a hobby, and it's going to make them doing that hobby easier. You know, so they're definitely going to be using it to like for that purpose. So you have the people who are using it to, you know, as a business move. Then you got the people who are using it for the purposes of like creating characters in the Mugen engine. For those of you who know about the Mugen engine. Thirdly, you got the people who are just, you know, like for example, there's people who want to be like fighting game historians, you know, and they want to take a trip down memory lane and just look at how things were in each of these fighting games, regardless if they're unbalanced or not. And not even fighting game historians. You have people out there who don't know the history of Street Fighter. They weren't around when these games were first released. So you know what I'm saying, like just like with the with like the weeaboes. You know, for those of you who know weeaboes, it basically is just like somebody who fakes loving anime. You know, just because they see like a group of people who like anime and they want to be a part of that group so much, but they don't have the knowledge or, you know what I'm saying, like the actual experience of watching anime. Like they pretty much just fake it. You know what I mean? And they got a group of people that's like that with fighting games. You know, they didn't grow up during the time, or they didn't grow up in the arcades, even though they may have been around that time because they couldn't hang. So they just want to pretend like, you know what I'm saying, like they know about the history of fighting games, and so they gonna get it and then try to jump into the conversation. Like, man, you just got the information from the 30th anniversary collection. Like, stop it. Like you over here faking it. It's like, quit it. You know, like you got the updated version. You know what I'm saying? Like we actually had to go through it. We had to wait for another version of the game to come out. So you got those people who are gonna buy it. Then you have like the Street Fighter loyalists, because regardless, in every community, in every demographic, especially when it comes to video games, you have people who will solely buy a game off of name alone. Not because the game was good, not because the game was, you know, great, but they'll buy it just off a name alone. They are just, you know, blind sheep, and they don't care if they're getting a bad product or not. It's a new version of Street Fighter, or it's a new Street Fighter release, and I want to get it. You know, those people that always waste their money just for the sake of getting their hands on another Street Fighter thing. And you know, so amongst them, they may have some people that are actually collectors. I mean, it's a collector's edition, so you know, those people are gonna get it as well. Last but not least, like, you have the perverts. I know that kind of shocks some people, but you got the perverts. Remember, you can look at things frame by frame in this, and I can just see people getting it just so that they can, you know, without them having to like free, because I used to have friends like this, and obviously we're not friends anymore because they used to do it. It's just weird dealing with people like that. They would, at times, you know, when it came to certain fighting games and they wanted to act like they were pervy, they would, you know, either pick Chun-Li or pick Cammy, and they would do a kick, and they would try to like pause the game at a certain moment so they can look, you know, between their legs and shit like that. And you got people out there that are gonna love this, because like I said, you can look at every character's animation frame by frame, from their stances to their movements to their basic attacks and things like that. You really have people that are literally gonna buy this for the purposes of doing that. So they're gonna love something like this. Like, they're really gonna like it. And so that's the demographics that are gonna buy this. And you know, so the game is still gonna sell well. Like I said, fighting game companies aren't necessarily concerned about the comments. Like I've said in many videos before, there's the common sense of business in here, and then you have the common sense of competition, which focuses on, you know, the common sense of business focuses on making money. The common sense of competition focuses on the hardcore communities that was around the game, that was built around that game. And oftentimes those two worlds are going to collide, you know, and this is one of those moments where I feel like the common sense of business is more important than the common sense of than the common sense of competition. Granted, you can do some competitive things with this, because like I mentioned before, I can see them doing some retro tournaments with, you know, the original Street Fighter. I can see them doing that. Of course, they're going to have tournaments for Street Fighter Third Strike. They're going to have tournaments for like Alpha 3. They're going to have tournaments for Super Turbo 2. You know, they're going to have tournaments for this. You know, and this just makes it easier for them to do that, because instead of them having to get it like a computer set up for it and trying to sift through a bunch of ROMs to try to find like the best version of the ROM, now you actually have like the actual games, you know, handpicked by Capcom themselves in a disc version. So now you can make your tournaments from that. You know what I mean? So it's less hassle for people who want to get like tournaments organized around this type of stuff. So I understand, like, but I can't see myself getting this. Like, I really can't. It's just the fact that I don't, you know, I understand when the bullshit is getting mixed in with everything else. Like, just give me like the pure, you know, just give me like the best version of each game, and I'll be more okay with that. Like, I don't want to have to sift through like, I don't care about, you know, every other version of Street Fighter 2. Like, you can have the information of those games in the game, but don't give me the game themselves. Like, I don't care for Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, you know what I mean? Like, all these other in-between Street Fighter 2 games. Just give me the best one. You know, just give me the best one out of the series, and then I'll be satisfied with that. You know, all this other stuff just ain't necessary, man. So that's my opinions on that, man. I don't really care for games or anniversary collections like that try to sell me a bunch of BS with things that I want. So that's all I'm saying. So I'm not saying, again, like, it's iffy if I'm gonna buy it or not. Like, if the demand is high enough and people want to see me play it, I would get it, but reluctantly. Because when it comes to things like this, I really don't spend my money on it. Like, I don't, because it's not worth it overall. Overall, it's really not worth it. You know, if you're giving me 12 games and I'm only going to play 4 out of the 12 games, you know, overall, like, I'm only going to play 4 out of the 12 games, then I feel like I wasted my money for the other, for like the other 8. You know what I mean? So I wasted money playing 4 games, and 8 of those games are never going to get touched. That's a waste of money to me. That's not good. So that's how I'm looking at it, you know. So that's my opinion on the Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection. It's not really worth it to me. But I understand that it's going to get sold still. Like, you know, I just hate when they do things like this. Like, you're giving me a bunch of BS with the 4 games that we do want, but you're giving us 8 games that we don't care for. You know, like, you could have easily just taken those 8 games, those other 8 games. Like I said, just give us Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, give us Alpha 3, give us Third Strike, give us the original Street Fighter, and take all the other nonsense games out, because those are unbalanced and overpowered games that nobody wanted to bother with once the updated versions came out. You know what I mean? So why would we go back and play them now? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't want them back then. You know what I mean? So it just don't make, like, collection editions like this don't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't like Mega Man, where it's like, you know, you're giving us like several games in the Mega Man franchise, and they're new games, they're freshly new games. You know what I mean? Freshly made new games. This is like rehashes of several games in a series that just doesn't make sense to, you know, even bother with, you know. So like, that's my opinion on the Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection. It's not worth it. I don't see myself buying it, and overall, like, it's just trash. But I understand that it's going to get sold. Again, like the demographics that I explained, you got the people that's going to buy it for business reasons, for like video game tournaments, fighting game tournaments, retro tournaments, things like that. You got the purrs that's going to try to look at people, you know, looking between Chun-Li and Cammy's legs, and you know, like, they're going to buy this game. They're going to buy it. Considering that you can look at everything frame by frame, they're going to buy it. They are, sadly, but they're going to buy it. You have the people who are going to use it for like things like Mugen, like the Mugen engine. You got people that's going to buy it for that. You have people that's going to buy it for like historical purposes, and people who are going to like try to fake like they've been playing Street Fighter, you know, since way back when, and they're going to try to use, you know, the messed up versions, like, hey, you remember when, you know, Street Fighter was doing this and this, and, you know what I mean, acting like they were there. They not, you know. So you got to watch out for people like that be trying to fake it. And it's just like different versions that you can just count on different reasons, but overall, those are the reasons that, I can see a game like this being sold. But I typically stay away from things like this because overall, they're a waste of money. Here's the thing. If you know I'm only going to play 4 out of 12 games, why won't you just give me the 4, which are the most updated and the most balanced, instead of giving me 12, trying to pretend like you're giving me a deal when I'm never going to touch those other 8. You know what I mean? So you could have probably sold the game for like a good, like you could probably sold the game for $20. So, or like even $30. But instead you gave us a bunch of bullshit to try to overinflate the price to like $40. Because when it comes to retro games, nobody's gonna pay like $50 for like a retro, video game and things like that. So I don't know, like it don't make no sense to me, man. So ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be it for this edition of Let's Discuss. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace. I'm out. Keep on gaming and all that good stuff.